I want to talk about the toxic racism and hatred being promoted in the United States at the highest levels inside the US government, and the type of stunts that they pull. And this is Democrats and Republicans working together to push this agenda forward. The stunts that they pull in order to serve as a vehicle to help propel this hatred and this racism toward China forward among the general public. A lot of people probably saw this incident play out. Made in China KN95 masks distributed to Congress leave conservatives outraged. Now, America's got a lot of problems right now. This is the least of their concern. A box of masks in Congress made in China. How is this a problem? This is not a problem. There are so many pressing issues that Congress should be addressing right now. This is not one of them. This isn't even really a problem when you think about it, but they decided to make it one. And if you read this article, Newsweek is going to try to make this out as if it's Republicans standing up for Made in America, but it's not. It's really just a way of expressing hatred and racism towards anything at all Chinese. And how do we know that? Because we could look at Bryan Steil, a congressman from Wisconsin. We could look at his tweet. And what does he say? He says, Speaker Pelosi sent out N95 masks to every House office. Unfortunately, I can't read the instructions. What's he talking about? If you click on this picture and you really zoom in here, you're going to notice that these aren't instructions, and it's a certificate with specifications on it. And it's written in Chinese and also English very clearly. And what is really offending Bryan Steil is the fact that there's something Chinese in his office. He doesn't want to see anything related to China or from China or about China in his office because he's a racist. He hates Chinese people. He probably hates all Asian people, and he does not want to see anything associated with them inside of his office. And if you've ever met an Islamophobe, you will know that they don't even want to be in the same room with someone who might potentially be Muslim, because this is how irrational and pervasive the hatred is, the racism and the hatred. And so this is Bryan Steil expressing this. This has nothing to do with Made in America. Obviously, these are not instructions, and obviously there's English here. So he was just using this as an excuse to bash on China and the Chinese people and anything Chinese, and to encourage that behavior among people who follow him or who have voted for him or people like him. Now, what's funny is Bryan Steil, someone said, Bryan Steil gets roasted on Twitter for making fun of China manufactured masks. And people are making fun of him because it's in English and they're not instructions. And this guy just wants to trash China. It's very obvious. He's just a nasty little racist. And he got caught saying something completely stupid just to be a nasty little racist, just so he could attack China, attack anything that is Chinese. And so what does he say in response to this? He says, when a democratic China buys made in USA products for the National People's Congress with English instructions featuring a bald eagle, let me know. And the truth is, if someone in China's government right now bought a box of masks made in the United States and handed it out to people in the Chinese government, if there wasn't some kind of suspicion that they were sabotaged or rigged in some way, I'm pretty sure that nobody would care. Nobody would say anything about it. And the reason why is because the Chinese government are not insecure. They're not these petty, insecure people. They're not nasty little racists. And so when they see a box of perfectly good masks being handed to them, they're just grateful that they've got them. They don't care where they came from. And so this is Bryan Steil, again, just making a completely pointless comment and just further exposing the difference between China and the people currently running the United States. And I think the United States is not just being surpassed by China. The United States is also in terminal decline, and it's precisely because of people like Bryan Steil and the corporate interests that own him and tug at his leash. And when the American people finally get leadership that work for the people, put people first before the profits of corporations, then you might see things starting to turn around. But until then, no. And it is precisely because of Bryan Steil, people like Bryan Steil. He wants to blame China because that's what petty, immature people do. They never look at themselves and see where their own shortcomings are. They're always using someone else as a scapegoat, especially racists. I mean, how many times throughout history has a group of people who are different, how many times have they been scapegoated for the shortcomings of a collapsing empire? Back to the Newsweek article, it says, the letter, so this is a letter these GOP representatives wrote and sent to Pelosi. The letter says, if members are required to wear masks, officials should at least respect the institution and the taxpayers enough not to line the pockets of our adversary whose actions led to the current pandemic. So again, it's just another excuse to reinforce lies about China, to attack China, to put China down, and to encourage hatred and paranoia regarding China among the general public in the United States and, of course, abroad. Why is China an adversary of the United States? It's very simple. The United States and the West in general is used to having primacy over the entire planet, acting with impunity, doing whatever it wants to whoever it wants without any sort of consequence. Now, with the rise of China, and with China helping other nations rise along with it, this is complicating US interference all around the globe. There are countries that are able to now stand up for themselves. They have new confidence. This was something that the new head of the National Endowment for Democracy, Damon Wilson, this is something he wrote in an op-ed, an opportunity for transformational leadership. Down here, Damon Wilson, now head of the National Endowment for Democracy, this is what he says. He says, adversaries such as China and Russia have gained ground and room for maneuver as the US built rules-based international order has frayed. Allies in Europe and Asia have learned to hedge against a potentially unreliable or ambivalent United States, and developing nations across Asia, Africa, and Latin America have become more capable and confident in pursuing their interests, as if this should not be allowed. Sovereign nations shouldn't be allowed to pursue their own interests. They must serve American interests. That is the bottom line. He really said that. When racism and hatred is being expressed at the highest levels of a government, there is a very dangerous agenda in motion, and it's usually a lead up to war, dehumanizing your adversary, encouraging people to say horrible things about them that you wouldn't say about other groups of people. Could you imagine someone in the US Congress finding a package with English and Hebrew on it and saying, why do I have something with Hebrew on it? How quickly he would be condemned and how quickly his political career would be over. But because it's about Asians, because it's about China, this group of people that the West for generations has insisted is inferior to them, because it's China, it's Asia, rising up, prepared to surpass all of Western civilization, it's okay. It's okay for them to do it, and they are doing it. One other thing I want to show you is this. This is Tahir Imin Uyghurian, and he's based in Washington, D.C. He had some fake newspaper called Uyghur Times, most likely funded by the U.S. government, and he is one of these people repeating these baseless lies about abuses supposedly taking place in Xinjiang for years and involving millions of people, and they haven't presented a shred of evidence to prove any of it. And so this is one of these guys, and so what does he say? He says, this is disgusting. KN95 masks sent to public by the US government, made in China with instructions in Chinese. Again, they're not instructions, and it's also in English. And this wasn't sent to the public, it was sent to representatives in Congress. So this guy can't even get his US propaganda straight. He can't even just copy and paste a lie correctly. He completely botched it. What else does he say? Can Americans live without Chinese? Americans' dependence on China makes the situation more harder for Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, and these are three groups of people the US for decades has backed sponsored and encouraged separatism among. So when you heard about the terrorism happening in Xinjiang, these were Uyghur separatists doing this. When you hear these Uyghurs in Washington, D.C. accusing China of abuses, each and every one of them is a separatist. They don't call Xinjiang Xinjiang. They call it East Turkestan. They're separatists. This was the same case for Tibet. The U.S. State Department's own website admits that the Tibetan uprising was fully sponsored and directed by the CIA. And of course, Hong Kong. It's no secret that the leaders of the Hong Kong unrest were in direct contact with the US government. They literally flew to Washington and were talking to the US Congress. So a case closed on that. Again, it's worth repeating over and over again. This is where the main battle lines are being drawn. China is rising, has the largest population on Earth. It's a country that has access to plenty of resources. Its population is well educated. The infrastructure is world class. They will surpass not only the United States, but all of Western civilization. They will be at the pinnacle of human achievement in just a few years. And in many ways, they already are. And what China is doing is not just rising upon the global stage by itself. It is helping the rest of the world do it also. Later this week, I am going to have a video about the high-speed rail network from China through Laos into Thailand and how it's not even done being built yet, and it is already benefiting everyone involved. This is what the US wants to stop, because before China came along, everyone was divided, everyone was weak, and the US could do whatever it wanted all around the globe with absolute impunity. Now that these countries are being empowered through the rise of China in cooperation with China, the US isn't able to do this anymore, and they're watching this hegemony fade. And if you're an imperialist and you're okay invading other countries and killing millions of people for power and profit, of course you're going to be very nasty about all of your toys being taken away. And you're going to stomp your feet and you're going to kick and scream. That's what the US Congress is doing. And I want people to understand that this is not a debate between the Democrats and the Republicans, liberal or conservative. They're all racist. And they all serve U.S. corporate interests. These are the most abusive corporations on Earth in all of human history. They have done untold damage that we will still be uncovering and dealing with for decades to come. If it stopped today, we would still be dealing with the fallout of what they've done for decades to come. We have to keep resisting this, speaking up against it. The anti-Chinese propaganda, the racism, the hatred is becoming a force of nature. It really gets hard to stand up to it, to withstand it. I mean, it is like a typhoon. You feel like you're going to be blown over by it, but we can't. We have to continue standing up strong. We have to stand up against this. We want China and the rest of Asia and all of Eurasia and Africa and Latin America. We want these regions of the planet to rise peacefully. We want the West to become a constructive player among all other nations rather than a hegemon insisting on imposing itself upon all other nations. And this is the future that at least I want to see come into focus. I don't want to see, the United States or the West in general just replaced by another abusive hegemon. I want to see multipolarism emerge. I want to see a better balance of power and economic prosperity upon the global stage. And I think that's what we see taking shape. But as you can see, there are very nasty people trying to do everything in their power to prevent it. And remember, they have access to nuclear weapons. They have access to what is still the most powerful military on Earth, a military they do not hesitate to use. This is the battle of our time, and we just got to keep fighting it. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing to my channel. It's free to do. It helps the channel grow. And if you click the notification bell, it will tell you when I upload a new video, which I do about 3 times a week. I have a website, newatlas.report. You can find and follow all of my work there. I do not have a paywall. I do not have ads. You can always access all of my work for free there. So please bookmark it, share it with others. If for some reason I get kicked off of YouTube, you can just go to that website. I will be able to embed videos from other video sharing platforms. You will always be able to find my work there. I am also on social media. I'm on Twitter for the time being, at Brian_Berletic. I'm also on Weibo, and you can find the links to all of these in the video description below. Also in the video description below, if you're interested, the links to every story that I talked about here, every article and tweet. Also in the video description below are ways you can help support my work. I can no longer use PayPal here in Thailand. Unless you're a registered business, you cannot send or receive money anymore. So I've opened a Buy Me a Coffee account. This allows you to do one-time donations or monthly membership, just like on Patreon, which I also have. To everyone who has been helping me and supporting my work, whether it's month to month or one-time donation, or even if it's just news tips and sending kind words or helping share my work with others, this is greatly appreciated. All of this is extremely important. I could not do this work without all of that support. So thank you, no matter in what capacity. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you for watching.